the funny thing about Joe Hanrahan, the Portuguese language, if there's an H at the beginning of a word, it's not pronounced. And if there's an R beside a consonant in the middle of it, it sounds like an H. So instead of Hanrahan, he was Bishop Jose, I first felt like I wanted to be a sister whenever I was in about 6th grade, and I wanted to be a missionary. And so the Missionary Sisters of St. Columban were the ones who were teaching me at the time, and I decided I was going to be a Columban. But then after the high school time, you know, whenever I was getting ready to graduate, and I applied to the Columbans, they asked me to wait a year. And I decided I didn't want to wait a year. So I went to the St. Louis instead. And one of the Columbans after that has said many times, "See what we lost? She should have been a Columban." The whole structure of religious life was different, and people were wondering what was going to happen to the modern day religious life. And so to enter at that time was a little uncertain, and people were concerned about how is this going to go. And
were you concerned about that?
Not at all. I mean, I felt like I was called. I felt like I wanted to be a religious, and so whatever came, came. And it was
And how about your family? How did when you said, "I think I'm going to become a St. Louis"?
But they were happy enough. I think they were particularly happy because I wasn't joining a strictly missionary order, and they really didn't want to see me go off to the foreign lands and be gone all my life. So my dad was proud of it because he was a cradle-born Catholic, and the whole idea of somebody being a religious was important to him. It was his influence and his fidelity that I think inspired me a lot. My mother was a convert, and so she kind of understood it, you know, it was okay by her. But what she didn't understand was whenever I actually went off to Brazil for a while. She did not like that piece. And she said to me, "Now you go down there and you spend your time and you come back here where you belong." As if it was a prison sentence, you know. When we went to Brazil, and there were 3 who started down there, we worked in a parish that had no priest. The diocese was the size of the Republic of Ireland, and there were 7 priests altogether in the diocese. And so we had we began forming the basic Christian communities and forming the people. We only got to the farms maybe twice a year. There were about 16 farming communities that we were in charge of, and we'd get out there about twice a year because you couldn't get there in the rainy season, so it had to be only in the dry season. So I would send out these reflections on each of the Sunday readings for them to be able to use whenever they were conducting their own Sunday services, you know, and we'd have the Sunday services without a priest and go out and do 80 baptisms at a time and how many blessings of marriages and all the rest of it. So just the amount that we were able to do. I mean, some of the tales that we would have from that time, I said, I'll have to write a book someday.
You know what's interesting to me about religious life? I think people don't realize what a freeing life. This is what you said to me once, that one of the young women you graduated from high school with, well, you'll tell us, but I'm telling you the memory, but you can tell us the whole memory. She said you've had so much more exciting. If you can talk to me about the funny thing your friend said about you having done so much more than she had done, but also the opportunities open to you in the religious life that oddly might not be open to somebody in a secular life.
That's true. There's there's more of a chance to listen and follow wherever you seem to be being called. It's like if I had finished high school and maybe gone to college for a while and then got married, I don't think I would have ever been to Brazil. I doubt if I would have ever been to Ireland and England and France. I probably would have been to Mexico and Canada. But you know, that type of thing where the whole experience for me going to Brazil was because I felt like I was called there. And I mean, it was a time, I didn't want it to be Brazil at the time, but my logical mind, we had opened the mission in Brazil and we didn't go unless we were called or unless we volunteered. And so I did not volunteer. And then eventually I kept feeling this niggling, in Portuguese it would be cutucando, this itchiness, shall we say, that was saying to me, I want more, and I want more. And so I logically thought, well, if I am meant to go to Brazil, then I need to volunteer to go. If I am not meant to go to Brazil and I volunteer, I have to believe that I won't be sent. If I am meant to go to Brazil and I don't volunteer, I'll never be sent and I'll never get rid of this this itchiness. And so I went through it logically that way and wrote a letter volunteering after our regional superior had gone out on visitation and would not get the letter till after she had seen me. Her first question when she came to see me was, how do you feel about Brazil? And so I knew that that was what I was being called to do. But had I gone off and got married, yeah, maybe I could have been a lay missionary and gone with my family down to Brazil. But, you know, the way it was, I was open to be able to go there and to be part of the people there and to immerse in that area, to live we lived in Barrelandia, then opened a house in Colmeia, then opened a house in Goiânia, then back to Barrelandia, you know, that kind of thing. Just a wonderful, enriching, humbling, and delightful experience. Dangerous at times, but just really, part of my heart is still there.
Now, I'm curious, you said something about dangerous at times.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, we were up in the interior of the country, and it's an area where there were a lot of people who were squatters on the land, and there were big landowners down in São Paulo and some of those areas who claimed to own the land. And so every now and then they would send up their pistoleiros, their pistol-packing gunmen, to go and clear the land for them. And there were a few cases where, well, one that I'm remembering particularly, there was a man who was crippled, and he had just a small little plot of land there, growing rice and beans to live on, and he was a squatter on the land. And by Brazilian law, if you are a squatter on the land for a year and a day uncontested, then the land becomes yours. However, the big landowners didn't abide by that, so they sent up gunmen to clear the land, and so a group of the people from the town got on, I was going to say a camionette, a flatbed truck, and went out and harvested the man's rice and beans first, so that we could at least take that out and have it for him. And the other thing was that there was a American Franciscan priest in the diocese next to us, and we used to call him Colonel Sanders because he had a white beard and, you know, looked like Colonel Sanders. He brought his camera, he was a photographer. And so, you know, you come into this clearing and there's the jungle all around it, and these gunmen come out of the jungle with their guns pointed. And so he took his camera and started taking pictures of all of them, and they disappeared back into the jungle. And so they left us alone while we harvested the crops and brought the crops back out then for the man who was being put off the land. But things like that, and one of the priests was assassinated up in Tocantinópolis on the steps of the church, which was just north of us. Padre Josimo was his name, because he was speaking out against the big, the ones who were taking all the land away. And one of the bishops, whose sister belongs to our congregation, his name was Bishop Joe Hanrahan, a Redemptorist bishop. He was in the diocese next to ours. He died mysteriously while he was there, and one of the big landowners took pride in saying that he had poisoned him. Now, the priests refused to exhume his body to give the landowner any credibility. So It is a dangerous area, but we got used to it.
Right.
It's a place where you arrive in and you clap your hand and say, "Oh, Chikaza,"
I'm here.
I'm here, yes. And they put more water in the beans than this. There's always room for more. I think it was later on when people started studying the writings of Abbé Louis Bottin that they realized his vision for the world was of one world healed, unified, and transformed, and that this is what God wills, that all may be one, in that prayer of Christ. So for me, yes, I learned God wills at Dieterle and all that sort of a thing whenever I entered first, but we also, because it was that time after Vatican II, we were beginning to study more of the founder's vision and all of these. And so I think some of us that are a bit younger senior citizens, got more imbued with that particular charism. And like for me, it's something that I say, it really steers my life. It's something that I just, anytime I'm speaking about St. Louis or about the Sisters of St. Louis, it's that desire for unity and that desire for oneness, that desire for a healed world, and for doing whatever we can to make it, to heal it.
Do you try to have any kind of experience be one where there can be healing, unifying, and transforming?
I would say pretty much. Now and then it probably doesn't cross my mind, but pretty much it's what motivates me. It's what keeps me going, There was once upon a time that I used to think, and I'm not quite as radical as I was then, but I used to think that if everybody else in the world didn't have this or didn't have this opportunity, then I didn't deserve it.
Oh, tell me more about that.
That, because everyone deserves everything, this oneness, or everyone deserves everything that is possible. That, if there's something that they don't have and that I'm being offered, I don't deserve it unless everyone else can have it too.
I know that feeling, and it can really trip you up. It can really
sabotage you altogether.
Right, because then you can't do anything.
Right. I kind of grew out of that a bit, but it still gets me now and then whenever you say, well, so-and-so, so why do I need it? I don't need it. Why do I have it? This.
Well, tell me about growing out of it. How would you look at things now?
Now, I think that I look at things more in the light of how we describe poverty, the vow of poverty, that things are for the use of bettering the world, and to be able to use things and to use situations and opportunities to help grow a better world. Since I've grown up a bit more, I understand that yes, poverty is always going to be with us, and there's always going to be the rich and the poor. There may not necessarily have to be the huge distinction between the rich and the poor that there is at the present time. And I may be able to do something about it, but I certainly can't transform the whole world. What I can do, I'll do.
I wonder about crisis of faith. I wonder about you or anyone who has chosen a religious life. We all know from looking at Mother Teresa's journals that there were moments that she had a crisis. Is there something that you can speak to?
There are times whenever there would be times of doubt, times of wondering. Well, just the other day now, this is not a time of doubt for me, but it recalled a time when one of our sisters had died, and I got into a conversation with someone who was saying that she was with someone who doesn't believe there's anything in terms of afterlife. And I know that there have been times whenever I've wondered, and I've said, is there really something later on? Is there really an afterlife? I don't know, I've never been there. And at present, yes, I believe there is, or I sure hope there is. It's like, I'd hate to think that the end here is the end of something. But there are things like that I think all of us question. And I know that whenever I was going ahead to make vows, there was a time whenever I stopped and I said, I don't think I can go forward with this. I think that I don't think I can take the next step, you know. I don't think I'm cut out for this. And yet, with the encouragement and the counseling and all the rest of it of some of the other sisters, they said, yeah, you can do this, you know, and helped me move forward on it. So there are times, yes, that all of us doubt something, or doubt some aspects of what's going on, in terms of being faith, or in terms of vocation, in terms of did we make the right choice, in terms of, well, I mean, nowadays in terms of did I make the right choice for somebody else or for something else that's going on, you know. And hoping and believing that, yes, if it's done in true consultation and true discernment and all the rest of it, that it will be okay. We had one of our sisters who lost her faith for a while. And she was actually one who had taught me in high school. And she had to leave the community at that time because she just didn't have faith in anything. And she prayed for faith. She struggled because she really wanted the faith, and yet it wasn't there. And she lived probably, I would say, at least 10 years outside the community, working for the poor in downtown Los Angeles, living in a very simple place. And then there was another of our sisters who died, and this sister went to the gravesite and got her faith back.
Oh.
And came back to us and lived the rest of her life with us, and then died.
And of course, St. John of the Cross talks about the dark night of the soul, and this is something that's challenging to someone who has progressed in their faith, who's not a baby anymore, you know, where everything, you know, that whole image of you hold a baby's hands and help them to walk, but eventually you let go.
Right.
And then she got up.
Oh, and I mean, the whole thing that has been going on between the Vatican and the LCWR and the Leadership Conference of Women Religious and all of that, and as a group, we in the Leadership Conference we were determined not to respond with violence to what we saw as violence being done to us, and so we were determined to approach it from a contemplative mode and take it just step by step and see where it would go, you know, believing and trusting that we were doing what was right, and that unfortunately it was not being seen the way it was supposed to be seen, or the way that it was meant to be, and yet knowing that this in some ways was a dark night for the whole group to be going through together. And so it's some people at the time said, oh, we need to step out of the church altogether, you know, and other people said, no, you can't do things from the outside. You have to hang in there and hang in with the church, you know, and just the fact that it has resolved itself in such a beautiful way. And I think that many of the positive things that it has done is brought the whole idea of religious life back into the forefront. And, you know, so many people had said to us, you have to be our witnesses, you have to be our spokespersons, and, you know, help us because you're the ones who understand what's actually going on in the grassroots of people. You know,
Does it matter if it's, I mean, it's not going to matter if it shows.
I don't think so. We've had it shown.
I mean, everyone knows we're doing an interview.
Everyone knows that you have to be mic'd.
Does Judy sound good?
I'm still making adjustments, but yeah, she sounds pretty good.
She sound good?
Okay, thank you.
Because I shouldn't. You're on both of us, right?
You're on both of them, right?
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm on a more of a close-up of you.
Don't get too close.
Get balanced.
Talking about transitions, we were,
Talked about transitions and, yes.
but that means we'd have to get a shot of that. We can come back and get a shot of that if we need to. Talking about transitions, tell us about.
It's all sort of, it's all.
I'd rather be behind the camera.
Yeah, there's
How about that?
Yeah, that'll kind of open you up to this camera a little
All
more.
right.
Yeah.
Am I sitting straight? Do I have terrible posture?
Just make sure you block the light socket, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure head's just floating in the blank.
This is the. Do I look natural?
I've got a little.
Oh. I have no idea what they're saying.
Neither do I.
They
I
know.
mean, I can hear their voices, I can understand the words, but it makes no
No
sense to me,
sense.
so.
All right. Speaking about transitions. Oh, did you hear the click? His battery. Now, see, they don't want me on camera, and I understand it.
I mean, but is that hysterical?
Ready? Well, speaking about transitions, tell me about your transition from you're 18 years old and you're leaving home and joining the Sisters of St. Louis.
You really want me to say them down?
They're gonna be like, Jane was the one, keep her off camera.